everybody, this is Richie from the Metal Cell podcast. I'm delighted to welcome Ren Marabou. How are you, Ren?
Great, man. Yourself?
Jack Penders.
How you doing?
And John Murphy, my fellow Cork man.
Hey, Richie.
I was just saying to you earlier there, John, that fucking the hair is out of control with you, man.
Yeah, I'm lucky I still have it, sir, I suppose.
True. There's always a talk of fucking being old on this show, man, you know? Kind of.
What classifies as old?
I'm apparently one of the vulnerable now because I'm over 50.
Don't look a day over 30, Richie.
Jazz, no.
Would you believe that? Yeah. So I think I can get my COVID vaccination in June if all goes well.
Nice.
So that'd be fucking great, man.
You're waiting a while yet, but yeah, it'll be good when we get the numbers up on the vaccines for sure.
Yeah. I must say, I love the Celtic weave there above your head, John. Is that new?
No, that's many years old. I picked that up in Wacken about 15 years ago, I think, for like a tenner. I don't know how I fitted it in with the tent and the sleeping bag, but there's another one over on I'm up in the pitch of a barn here, so I haven't plastered the ceiling, so I have to cover it with something. So that was as good a thing as any.
Whatever works.
Yeah, it looks class.
That's just bizarre. You got it in Wacken of all fucking places.
Yeah.
I thought it might have been the backdrop to one of your bands or something, like, you know.
No. It's just there's another one you can't see over here as well. So it's just covering plasterboard. That's all it's doing.
The Indian headdress. There was ones for sale over in Bloodstock. Not the same quality, obviously, but I still went, Jesus Christ! Imagine trying to bring that back from Bloodstock, you know, with all your shitty fucking clothes and everything fucked into one bag. Like, you'd have to wear it on your head coming into the airplane, I bet you, man. Fuck's sake. So anyway, we're here and we're all celebrating your solo projects, lads. Fair foxy, I must say. I think, you know, it's a situation over the last 2 years where live performances have stopped, obviously, and for someone like yourselves, maybe we could start with you, Ren. You were part of bands for a long, long time, and then you decided to head out on your own then. Would you kind of give a background into...
Yeah, do you know what? It's funny because I keep getting people asking me now, do you miss the bands and all that? And yeah, I do. I miss the crack with the lads and the camaraderie, but it was a bit out of necessity, yeah. Like, I suppose I was in Kerouac and Marabou, and then Paralysis was just starting to get rolling, and then boom, virus.
Yeah.
So that was the end of that. So I was out of necessity, to keep me sanity. I was like, you know what? I have the room on the side of the house. I'll start recording and keep myself sane.
Yeah, I mean, but like the output, I mean, you're about to release probably, is it your roughly fourth album in a year?
I think this will be the fifth one with Misanthropic, yeah.
Fuck me. In how many years? You started?
I started last May. I think I released my first EP, yeah.
Some output, man. And a lot of those songs, Ren, we'll say in the first EP, I presume you had them for a while, had you?
The first EP, yeah, I just kind of threw that together. I done it as cheap as possible. I think the dearest microphone I used and that was a tenner. And it was all cheap, free software, and I just said, I'll throw something out to keep me going. But then people liked it, so I was like, you know what, I'll put a proper one out. And then I was like, went into full Devin Townsend mode, thinking I was Devin Townsend pro. I'll go down that route, you know what I mean? But
and your main forte would be guitar anyway, yeah?
Guitar all the way for me, and vocals, yeah.
Yeah, and like, how difficult was it just to kind of understand and get to know the kind of software that's out there to help you create new music?
I was lucky because I kind of, with Kerouac and stuff, we used to record our own albums anyway.
Oh, right,
so,
okay.
Yeah, and I went to Ballyfermot and we done a bit of music production there too, you know, so, you know, I kind of had all that kind of waiting in the wings and never really used it. So I was like, you know what? I'll just buy a few bits of software, a bit of equipment and give it a go.
Yeah, it's amazing what a guy can do these days. Especially, I mean, I suppose there's plenty of stuff on YouTube as well, lads. You know, if you
Yeah.
get stuck to figure shit out with that, is there?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean that's where I picked up the guitar sound. I've been using the chap from Gojira's plugin. That's a monster. So
Wow.
I actually, yeah, if that was a YouTube ad, it's just use this, Ren. You know.
Fucking hell. And Jack, what about you? Again, history with bands?
Oh, I've been in bands in kind of various forms since I was about 10 years old. And kind of started off more as a vocalist than anything. I was in like a black and death metal band called Dead Aeon for about maybe 10 years or so. And then going into like various studios and stuff, and kind of just seeing that kind of side of it always kind of really interested me. I was playing drums as well throughout that time, and eventually joined a band as a drummer, and went to college to study drums and stuff like that. And eventually the death metal band stopped. The band that I drum for is still going, but we've always been more of a, like, not really a live band, more of a kind of a, you know, like, just kind of, I guess we're more of a studio band now, but it's very kind of, it wouldn't be on the metal side. It would have been a bit closer to like kind of a proggy kind of alternative rock thing, like close to the likes of like Carnival and stuff like that. But throughout all of that, I kind of like, I've always had this mental interest in recording, and about 3 years ago, decided to just say, right, fuck it, I'm just gonna like deep dive into this and kind of just learn how to do everything that I've seen done in studios and stuff. And obviously, like, kind of through that, like I was playing guitar and stuff as well, just kind of like a multi-instrumentalist kind of thing. And obviously, when you're learning to record, you start recording yourself, and eventually you just amass this amount of material. So I decided to kind of just to pursue this kind of thing completely on my own, to see how much I can do, how kind of high of a quality I can get it, and decided to kind of do multiple things at once. So like I started writing kind of what I was really comfortable with, which was the kind of heavy kind of death metal side of things. And when I'd hit a wall creatively with that, I'd jump over to this other thing that I was doing, kind of like a kind of ambient cinematic, but still kind of progressive kind of rock metal instrumental kind of thing. And it meant that like I was never kind of like stuck on one place. As soon as I hit a wall with one, just jump straight over to the other, because it's a completely different vibe and you keep going. And that kind of naturally ends up in you having a load of material that's loads of different kind of genres and stuff. So I decided to kind of just make like a banner that I could just release all of my solo stuff on, regardless of what it was, regardless if it was heavy, if it was light, if it was whatever. So that's kind of been my vibe for the past 3 years. And thankfully kind of lockdown has allowed me to really just kind of deep dive properly into it and kind of learn as much as I can.
Yeah, and title is Rotlaust. How did you come at that?
That was just, I think I was really into Wardruna at the time, and just kind of saw that word and kind of like, I love kind of like looking up translations of those kind of like lyrics to see kind of what, obviously I can't speak Norwegian and stuff like that. So just kind of see what they're saying. And Rotlaust kind of came up because it's like one of the words on one of their tracks, obviously. It translates as rootless, so it kind of like represents what my idea was, in the sense that it's not just rooted in one genre. It could literally be anything that comes out of me.
Yeah, cool. And John, I was in bands, but for you it was a lot more different because you hadn't really any access to your band members. So despite you not wanting to be a solo artist, you had to go down that route. Would that be close enough to the bone?
Well, I guess if I go back, I mean, the first gig I ever played was in like 5th year in school in 91 or 92. And I was a drummer originally, and I still masquerade as a drummer. There's the drummer in front of me. There's a drum kit here, right here in the studio. And that's kind of what I started with. And when I was about 15, I picked up guitar, but I was playing in an indie band all the way through college and stuff, and just as the drummer. But I was always writing for that band, but I was always into heavier music than what that band was actually playing. And I suppose in about 95 or 6, 7 maybe, I started, I had one of these little 4-track Porta Studios, Tascam Porta Studios, where you put a cassette into it and you could record 2 tracks on one side and 2 on the other. And so you'd end up flipping the tape around and putting the tape into another machine so you could play back and then overdub over it, because I didn't, multi-track recording in the mid-90s was just something for the other people, I bought, I remember buying a Yamaha 16-track desk, a digital desk, and I, in college, I was the vice president of the Music Society for a while, and we got a budget from CIT, as it was at the time, to buy a lot of equipment. So I bought, basic recording gear, again, a multi-track recorder and some speakers, and they gave us a room out in a porta cabin in, I guess this would have been 98 or 9. So on the weekends, I used to go in there and record the college bands, So the gear was all there. I'd charge them 50 quid or something like that, because I was getting experience doing it. They got a demo out of it, and nobody had to pay the overheads. So that was a really great learning experience for me. And it meant that I was kind of used to working on my own, and I was just totally self-taught. And all that time in the background, the digital recording technology, the softwares, the Cubases and the Pro Tools, they were all evolving over that sort of time. And like I said, I was always a drummer. I was playing guitar and I was playing bass, and I was, always recording myself and writing myself, and it was always kind of heavier stuff. And we moved on from the Porta Studio 4-track thing, as I said, to gradually better and better things, and starting to record in studios then with ADAT machines, where you'd have to sync up the tape machines together. And even then in the early 90s, there wasn't Pro Tools. You were still recording to ADAT. There was no waveforms to look at on screen. It was interesting, to say the least. And
alien concept, lads.
And when I look at it now, and I mean, of course, I do remember people recording on tape. I never did record to tape, but that was only a few years before that. And when I think back to what people had to do then, compared to what we have today, where all the 4 of us on the screen can record digitally to our PC right now in infinite numbers of tracks. You can get Reaper and it costs you nothing. Or you can pay subscriptions to Pro Tools or buy Cubase or any of the others, and a half decent interface for a couple of $100, and you can record top quality stuff. And Ren mentioned the Gojira plugin. If you think back to what plugins were like when Amplitude came out 3 years ago or whatever it was, they didn't sound anything like the real thing.
No.
And what you can get now for €99 is just fucking staggering. They're so good, people are starting to use them live. The technology has improved to the nth degree since those kind of days. And coming back to your question, I mean, around 2003 or 4, I finished a way too long stint in college, and I moved to Spain for a while, and I had recorded a bunch of demos in Cork before I left, and I released it as the first Faroon demo, and it was really, really raw. I've recorded the drums in my parents' house on like 2 microphones, and it sounded shitty. I moved to Spain, and then I got into program drums. So the first couple of demos have program drums on them, and you can really hear it now. But at least it was something I could control. I was living in a small apartment. I couldn't record drums, and like so many others, it's the bedroom, producer thing. So that's why the first few releases that I did were just me on my own, just me on my Todd. And shortly after I came back from Spain in early 2006, I had these 10 songs and I showed them to a bunch of friends, and that put together the first Faroon lineup. So that kind of put the end to the solo thing at that stage. That was it then. Until 2013, really, there was a full lineup. Until like 7 years ago. I took a 5 or 6 year hiatus then after that because of work reasons. But even during all that time, I moved house and renovated the studio I'm sitting in now. So all the time still focused on recording myself and building up way too much gear off myself and getting into debt because of it. But always still demoing songs and then providing them to the band, and the lads would pick it apart and we change this and that. And that's the same whether I'm talking about Faroon, which we're talking about now, or the grief stuff as well. The other doom band I'm playing in, and like Ren talked about all the stuff he's done in the past year. Like I've managed to put out 4 EPs in the space of the past 8 in the past year as well, and 2 compilation albums. So the ability to do this, I don't know how I'd have got through the last year and a half if I didn't have this facility. I'm sure the lads would agree. Yeah. It's just been a nice creative output. Given that we can't play live, at least you can go into your man cave and record it.
Yeah, I mean, there's something as well. I know it's called. You've released a solo project, but how much of it is an actual solo project? I know, Jack, you gave a big shout out to Dave Redmond for helping you. What part did he play?
Oh, Dave he's the keyboardist of the band I was telling you about, the band that I drum for. So he's fairly integral in the sense that once I kind of like have, say, about 80 to 90% of the song there, he kind of comes over and we add kind of more production, more kind of like, he's very good at the kind of more kind of orchestral things and electronic things. And it's essentially, we just take my session and just it's essentially like throwing paint at a wall and seeing what sticks. And it's kind of just more taking it up to another level. The whole idea of kind of my project is that I get a chance to kind of write by myself, but think, okay, who do I know that kind of suits this? That's why the track that I sent you has the vocalist of that band doing the vocals for it, that kind of thing. Although a lot of the stuff I will do, like my upcoming album is pretty much completely solo, apart from like a few guests and stuff like that. But Dave is kind of like, if there was any reason why I guess my album wouldn't be considered a solo album, it would be because of him, because it's just that extra layer of like depth that he brought, the kind of more kind of cinematic thing. And it's just because myself and him kind of work really, really well together. We'd be the main kind of like songwriters of our band.
Yeah.
One of those situations where as soon as both of us get in the room, something is going to come out of it. It doesn't really matter. It's going to happen. It's just that kind of chemistry. So yeah, he's kind of like, he kind of adds that last layer of just depth and intrigue, I think.
What about you, Ren?
Yeah, no, I'm just in here in my man cave 24/7, just throwing stuff down all the time.
And have you got someone to bounce ideas off of?
Just like people on the label and stuff like that. They give me ideas just talking to them and stuff. But like I just have so much. I just need to get it out. My brain's about to explode without getting to rehearse and stuff with the band, and so I'm just. No, exactly. No, the missus just kind of like shoved me away this year. She's like, "You stay in there, don't come out." So she's had a nice year.
And how did the relationship with Misanthropic Records?
Yeah. Oh well.
Come about?
Yeah, they somehow got in touch with me, and we started having a bit of a conversation about where I was thinking of going, what they could offer, and I just seemed like a perfect fit. The boys are great over there, so I'm planning on going over next year, maybe do a little tour in America. So I can't wait for that. So I'll probably take musicians from the label over there to play with me and stuff.
So you're going. You're nearly on the verge, or is it May the 1st?
Yeah,
Valhalla Waits, is it?
Yeah, that'll be the first one with Misanthropics. Yeah. And
what made you go Viking?
Do you know what? It's been something that I've been trying to get going for a long time. Even the Paralysis logo has the 3 Odin horns. I've tried to sneak that in. I don't even know if the boys even knew that. They'll probably see this now and go, yeah. But it's been something I've been mad about for a long time, my beliefs and the whole lot. And I know for sure that any band I brought it to would have shot it down. They would have been like, no way, man. So when I started the solo stuff, I was gradually working my way up to it. And I was like, you know what? It's time. It's time
your previous release, what was it? Ultra Mega was very influenced by Soundgarden.
Yeah.
Nirvana, Deftones.
That would
it definitely caught people on the hop for you to go
I was actually writing. I was writing both of them albums at the same time, really, and I was like, well, I bother releasing this one, and then I was going to make a double album. I was like, oh, it'd be weird, and then I said, I'll just release this one like a month later.
Jesus Christ!
You know, it's.
Go on, no, yeah.
No, go on.
Yeah. Like again with you, Jack, as well. Plagueborn. When I heard that, I was just going, "Holy fuck! This is unbelievable! What a great fucking track!" And then you kind of went in to Covenant, which is your new release, Covenant, and it was just like 9 Inch Nails, ambient soundscapes, and I was just going, "What?"
Yeah, it's like I was saying earlier, like Ren was saying, it seems to be the key to constant creativity is to always be working on kind of complete opposite kind of sides of things. It really, like, I can't imagine just sitting there and focusing on one thing, and then when I hit a wall, like what do? Do I just stop working for a while? No, I'll be able to actually jump over in a completely different headspace and work on something completely different. And I guess that's the idea of it. That and the song that I sent you is kind of still an example of that. It's more rooted in the whole kind of Deftones kind of vibe of the kind of that kind of alternative metal kind of thing, and then I'm in the middle of tracking vocals for just a really, really horrible sounding death metal band, more like kind of the likes of Plagueborn, my first kind of single, and that's like a full album of just Plagueborn essentially. So
okay. And John, listening to the two lads there, has there been times where you kind of wanted to stray away from the kind of doom sound that you've, I suppose, lived with? And
well, I guess I can kind of compartmentalize. At the moment, I'm writing for one of two bands. If it's generally what depends on what comes out. If it's a fast song, it goes in the Faroon bucket, and if it's a kind of a doomy Paradise Lost riff, it ends up in the grief bucket, you know. And I can kind of categorize them fairly easily. I mean, in the past, I've written kind of spacey, atmospheric things as well, and you know, there's a whole folder of that stuff sitting there that I really haven't done much with. So I am a big fan of a lot of kind of industrial stuff, but I've never felt the need to create that kind of music. Just what comes out. In general, it's kind of melancholic stuff, and particularly in the last year and a half. So there's more doom coming out. I've written about half a dozen doom songs in the last year that I've just passed on to the lads. I said, here you are, look, chew on those and see what you think. So there's a bunch of grief songs written out of just the circumstances we found ourselves in. But no, I don't. I certainly. I mean, that can change, but I don't. You know, I'm not going to produce a 9 Inch Nails album in the next year anyway.
That'd be interesting, man, if you did.
Yeah, I'd like to. I mean, I'm a big fan of a lot of that stuff, or you know, Rammstein, or a lot of that kind of stuff, Ministry and all that kind of stuff. But I don't know. It never grabbed me as something I want to do.
Yeah. Okay, so we're going to listen to John's track here. It's In Vain. It's called, and it's off Relapse. So
yeah,
we'll give it a spin there. Hope you can hear it, yeah?
On the strain, the days went away, beautiful.
was great, John. That surprised me as well, because a lot of your vocals are really heavy, and to have that really prominent, clean vocal.
It's completely different to the other 9 songs that I've put out this year or this past year, and it's very simple, very straight ahead structure, and more commercial, for want of a better phrase. The rest of it is much more aggressive, and I just like to do stuff like that. I recorded 2 songs out of the 8 or 10 I've released, and that have clean vocals most of the way through, because I've done whatever it is, 15, nearly 20 years of growling. So it's time for something a bit different. So that one is clean the whole way through, and it's just different for me. The rest of the songs are all growling, and I'll growl again. I don't mind. Yeah. But anything for a change.
Yeah, and that song as well, the opening track, Devout, as well, we reviewed it on the forums there.
Right.
That's great as well, man. The Gregorian chanting as well.
Yes, nice, sorry.
Now, of course, the boys ripped the hole out of me because of putting that on the forums, because it's kind of more of an intro song than anything else.
Yeah.
The reason I put it on is fuck yeah, because you have to hear the Gregorian chanting. It's just, it's just completely different, and I welcome it, man. It's a great EP, John. Fair play.
Good stuff, thanks. Yeah.
Ren, vocally wise as well, did you have to change much your style in relation to this, to approaching the whole Viking aspect of it?
Actually, yeah. Well, it kind of felt more natural for me. Like I have, for years, I used to be described as like singing like a bear. I was like, fair enough. Yeah. So it's just like, I'll my inner bear, my inner
air bear.
Yeah, I give that a whirl, because I actually went a bit lighter there for the first, second, third album leading up to the Viking stuff, and I was just like more melodic, more singing, and like back in like Marabou and Kerouac, it was all about the screams,
Yeah, I mean that to track The Wanderer there as well. I mean, vocally wise, I'm hearing Alice Cooper. There's Smashing Pumpkins thrown in there as well, man. It's very interesting. Because, again, with kind of producing Viking metal as such, there's always the impression that you could go and do the old Amon Amart. But I mean, that's probably done to death as well.
Yeah. So. I mean, they were like one of the original inspirations of the whole thing. But bands like Tyr and even Winter Sun just kind of open it up a little bit more, and it doesn't have to be like ferocious the whole time. And I love Ward Rona. Jack was talking about Ward Rona. I think if I could go in another direction now next, that's probably where I try, But I don't think I could put it off now. But
okay, so we'll have a listen to The Wanderer there and give people an idea. Should be coming on there.
I
thinking here, man, I don't know about the rest of you, but that will be fucking brilliant live. That'll be a fucking banger live.
I can't wait to play that one live,
Yeah. It'd be difficult, I think, as well. Would it be to sing?
Yeah, it probably will be, yeah. I mean, like, I try and get the idea here and have a little rehearsal to myself. But yeah, it'll probably be tough enough, like.
Yeah. Did you hear any other influences there on that track, lads?
I thought I heard a bit of Soundgarden in there.
Yeah,
Nice.
exactly what I was
Yeah.
hearing. Yeah, especially with that kind of the sludgy kind of riff almost.
Yeah.
Bit of Tim
Definitely.
Lizzy as well, maybe at the start as well. Always a good thing. And that track itself, Ren, was there anything particularly to inspire you with it? It's
kind of like my version of like a Christian rock. It's like Norse pagan rock, singing about the god of them all and all that stuff.
and fucking works for me anyway. So Jack, we'll go back on to you, man. The title Covenant, is it in relation to something?
Not necessarily.
Right. Okay.
With all the instrumental stuff, the good thing about instrumental stuff is that you can name it literally whatever you want. Like it doesn't there's no lyrics, so you really it's literally just okay. This is a cool phrase. With that, I was sitting at my desk and kind of looked up, and there was that film Alien Covenant. There was a poster sitting in front of me. I just went, "That's a cool word," and I've played Halo before, so cool. I'll have that right at the front. And that was for the song, and it was just like obviously when you're looking through like track list and you're like, yeah, that word kind of stands out as it could be a cool album track.
Cool. So the track you've given me is called The Surface, is it?
The Surface. So The Surface was the single that I released after Covenant. This is kind of, again, like I was saying, more of like the Deftones kind of vibe, and it's literally just I wanted to write a song like that. That kind of vibe is something that really resonates with me. So that and my vocalist for my other band again is very like the same kind of thing. So I wanted to see what would happen if I put him in that environment. If I gave him that kind of vibe, how would he respond? And personally, I think he did a great job.
Okay, we'll give it a listen here then. So this is The Surface. Class, man. I think both yourself and Ren use synths very much to your advantage on.
Yeah.
And it's not something that really would kind of appeal to me much back in the day, but the more over the last few years I get to appreciate the strengths of having a good synth. carrying the song as well and the melody in the background. Once it's not too much in your fucking face, you know.
Yeah.
It's all to do with context. Like with regards to that kind of song, like the synth used in those verses is literally just to add just another layer of kind of, it's not really like this is the synth part and you need to listen to this. It's more
Yeah, exactly.
Kind of
Atmospheric kind of,
yeah, exactly. That's kind of how I'd use it.
Yeah, what do you think, John?
Yeah, I use them all the time as well, and it's something that I notice when it's gone. Oh, and then I go, oh, there's a hole there, and I always use them not to be in front, just like the guys were saying there as well, because you know it's metal, it should be guitars and drums and stuff like that. But I think maybe a lot of it comes from my love of a lot of 80s music as well, where the synth was so strong. I love a lot of like Pet Shop Boys and all of that really strong synth pop stuff. I'm a huge fan of a lot of that. So that's somewhere in me. And as a lifelong Paradise Lost fan, they were great users in their kind of 90s experimental Depeche Mode phase with a lot of synths as well. And I love a lot of that. So again, to my taste, it shouldn't be front and center for the kind of music we're playing, but I definitely miss it once it's gone.
Mm-hmm. Now I'm going to put it out to you there. How important is cover art in relation to your projects? Who wants to take this first?
Who wants to go?
I'll go.
Yeah, go.
So I've been working with a guy, Stephen Lindsay.
Shout out to Steve, great artist.
I've known Steve for a very long time. I met him years and years ago. My death metal band, were supporting Vader in like a random show down in Waterford for some reason. We just got a text like, here, do you want to support Vader in Waterford? I was like, of course we do.
Nice.
As well, like,
why wouldn't we? And Stephen was playing in one of the bands playing that night. And just bumped into him and kind of like, you know, like that whole thing of kind of got on at him on Facebook and something. And you just kind of over the years just kind of saw what he was like up to, like kind of art wise. And it was really, really, really interesting. And the first kind of thing we worked on was, again, for my death metal band. And it was just this photo he had uploaded for college or something. It was just this really, really interesting. It was like a branch with like a mask in it. But like essentially the entire like background was blacked out. There was loads of strings out of it and stuff. It was just really creepy and really interesting. And I reached out to him and we were like, can we use this for our artwork for one of our singles? He was like, yeah, no worries. And from there kind of kept more in contact with him. And then when it came to actually kind of doing any kind of work for my personal kind of stuff, I went straight to him. The first thing he did was my logo, and then it's kind of been almost exclusive since. Well, like I'm like, with regards to like kind of the artwork for The Surface is actually just a photograph that one of my other mates took. But I've kind of decided like any kind of like main kind of release, either EP or album, will be kind of exclusively with Stephen. Because especially with the Covenant artwork, I think it was one of those things that like I got done maybe halfway through the process, and it kind of defined the rest of it. It was kind of like, okay, now I have a visual to the audio, and again, it's added context. It's like as soon as you look, it's almost as if you're scoring the artwork. And as soon as that kind of happened, it was kind of like, okay, everything's coming together. I know what kind of atmosphere I really want for it. So it's incredibly important, to kind of like to work with the artist and be like, okay, here's where I am. Let's see what you do. So I'm genuinely like I was saying with the new album, I haven't got anything done artwork yet, but he's very kind of in the background, just kind of working away at little ideas and stuff. So
did you send any of those tracks to him before the concept was visualized by Steve?
For Covenant?
Yeah.
So well, like I think I sent him like the demos and stuff that we had at the time. Like I was saying, it was kind of like half done. So whatever I had, I threw it over to him and kind of just talked about like the general kind of vibe I was going for. The whole kind of like, I think I described him as kind of like just cold and kind of almost kind of earthy, but still with a really, really kind of ethereal kind of vibe to it. And that's how we got the whole like, if you see the artwork, there's lots of kind of trees and there's a really kind of small character, but he's walking towards this massive kind of like almost kind of celestial kind of obelisk kind of thing. It's really kind of surreal. So it was that whole idea of kind of blending the earthiness of like, say, drums, guitars and vocals, or drums, guitars and bass and whatever, to the kind of almost orchestration and weird kind of synth parts. So it's like the artwork is kind of mirroring that in a way.
Yeah. Jesus, he did a fantastic job.
He did.
Ren?
Yeah, well, the last two albums, it's all just about anything Viking. I just sit around myself here playing around with like different stuff, make my own logo and artwork, and just a lot of the time I'll make a piece of artwork or something, and I'll be like, I'm gonna write a song about that. So it's like it bounces inspiration off each other.
So basically, are you saying then that you've more or less designed all your own stuff then?
Yeah,
really?
pretty much. Yeah.
Wow.
Props
And,
all of them.
yeah, and the cover of The Wanderer, that is you as well.
Yeah.
Fuck me, man. That's some fucking art.
It's all computer stuff. Like, I can't draw.
Doesn't matter.
Yeah.
So you get a picture of an old dude and Photoshop him.
Yeah, that's exactly it. Like 100%. And I'll get some birds from something else and bring them in. And,
that's brilliant.
stick a few filters on it. There you go.
And then, John, you went with the big guns. Shout out to Ken Coleman, man.
I've always been hopeless at any graphic designer artwork stuff myself. My talents don't extend quite that far, so I acknowledge that. And I mean, the Faroon albums over the years, we used Paul McCarroll one time. We used Peter Rees, and
Peter Rees. Jesus. Okay.
Yeah, Peter Rees did a 2013 album for Astaire a few years ago called Latter Angelus, but I got in touch with Ken Coleman for the EPs this time around, and he was dead happy to do it. He was a fan of the band, he said, and to be honest, I didn't have a concept, and I asked him to show me some samples of some pre-existing stuff he had with kind of some surreal landscapes. And Ken gave me a few samples of what he had, and he knew I was planning on putting out 2 EPs, and then I needed pieces for 2 singles to go with that as well. And in fact, I've just pressed CDs there now, so there's actually a CD on the way out.
Nice.
I haven't put it on sale yet, but that's coming. So that keeps, but going back to the question, actually, Richie, you asked is how important is the artwork? I mean, in the digital age, because so many people never pick up the CD. You got to have something eye-catching, and if it's just a black, panel with your logo on it, it's not going to excite anybody. So I think it's critical to have decent artwork, and so yeah, as you said, getting Ken to do that for me, I was really, really happy. And on the other band with the grief stuff, I mean, we got some of the best looking artwork I think I've ever seen, and literally these were just pieces we actually bought. And we've printed posters now. We're going to be shipping posters of them, and we're printing shirts and all these other kind of stuff because the artwork looks so amazing.
Remind me again. That was the Russian artist, and he had. Yeah. How did you come across it again? It was
literally it's stock art.
Stock art. That's it.
It's just stock art we found, but nobody else seemed to have. We bought royalty-free prints, and thankfully nobody else has picked them up. And we bought 5 of them, and we used them for the 2 EPs, and then for the compilation CD we put out. We used them as well. It's a guy called Slava Gersh, a Russian artist, and never met him, never spoke to him, but Christ, he's a talented artist. And everybody commented on the artwork because they'd never heard of us. We were a new band, so all of a sudden, people are going, Jesus, the artwork looks good. I might listen to this.
Yes,
job done.
Yeah. And Ken Coleman, lads, just he did work for Morbid Angel, we'll say, and the Cranberries as well.
Yeah, he's incredible.
It is, yeah, it's incredible stuff. And also the whole idea, the rabbit hole that is videos for your songs, be it lyrical videos or an actual video. I'm really impressed. What, John?
A necessary evil.
Necessary evil, yeah. Ren is doing a fucking brilliant job.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
That's just me and my tablet and a camera and a few mates and a couple of forests.
Yeah, just go through the whole process of it, man.
Yeah, I mean, like, I've always had a big fascination with video making, and the one that really kicked it for me was a Paralysis video there we done just before the whole lockdown stuff, and I kind of helped. Well, pretty much directed the whole thing and filmed the whole thing and edited it all. And I was like, I think I might just make this a thing that I do, you know. So I just got really into it, and I have a load of mates that are in film studies, school and college and that, and they just give me loads of tips and hints and stuff, and it's great fun. If I wasn't a musician, I think that's the path I'd probably follow.
And we'll say Guide Me to Asgard then.
Yeah.
Excuse me. That's Viking footage with modern scenes. Was that you as well? Like,
Guide Me to Asgard. I'm trying to remember now.
That's
Can't even remember me on video. Oh yeah, no, that was friends of mine. They filmed a short film, and they let me use the. Yeah, it was great. But I edited it up and chopped it up, and added After Effects and colors and stuff.
Fucking hell, yeah. Yeah. And it's just an interesting take. For you that don't know about it, it's this dude waking up in bed, and he's a Viking, really. Is that the way it's portrayed in another world? And,
yeah, he's kind of like, yeah, that's it. He's like he's not able to live his true self in a way.
Yeah, sums it up nicely.
Yeah,
and the ending is fantastic.
I know,
actually.
I love that. Like that's what got it for me. I was like, lads, I need this. Like, the Valkyrie and taking her helmet off. And...
Yeah. Fucking hell. But I mean, you're playing it down, man. Jesus Christ, you've done quite a few videos as well. I mean, time consumption. Where?
I know. I have the guys from Cassidy's Guitars are always asking me, this and that, and how things are going, and they're like, we don't want to bother you because we know you live in the studio. I'm like, no, it's grand.
Fucking hell. Jack, is there something that interests you? Videos?
Definitely. For other kind of projects for my band and stuff, I've worked with a few people. The main one being Olga Kosmenko. She's
shout out to Olga, yeah.
She's fairly good at these kind of things. She's done, I think, 2 videos of my other band, and it's something that I've always kind of wanted to really kind of pursue, especially when it comes to like instrumental stuff. Like I was saying, with the artwork, it kind of adds context, and I'd imagine even with kind of something like a video would add even more so. I'm definitely planning on kind of, I'd love to do something almost animated, something kind of like not really kind of filmed, but more kind of just kind of created. I think that would kind of lend itself really well. I've considered the whole, especially for the next album, considered the whole kind of lyric kind of video thing, but I don't think people actually sit down and watch those things. Like it's either you listen to it and you like Google the lyrics on something, but you don't sit and watch a lyric video. So it's something I kind of want to like kind of dive a bit deeper into and see where we can kind of take it creatively, as well as like it just kind of representing the music. I want it to be like expand on it. I want there to be a reason for it to exist as well.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head there with lyric videos. I think we're fucking oversaturated with them at this stage.
Agree. They're kind of an expected requirement, but I don't know how many people actually bother looking at them.
Yeah, you haven't gone down that route, John.
No, I mean I do the ubiquitous required lyric video when it's there, or a guitar playthrough is the other version, right? Because it's something quick and easy that we as musicians can edit together pretty quick. I have very limited video editing skills. I've never really put time into it, but I definitely want to pursue it as a medium to get some kind of a better quality video together. Mm-hmm. I think maybe for the Grief next time around we might try and do something. But obviously with COVID, it's just been difficult. Sure, we could just get some kind of stock footage and have something quite simple. But I would really like to put some time and effort into it in the future. But yeah. At the moment, it's like I said, it would have to be something I'd have to collaborate with others on. It's not a skill I've got myself, really. Yeah,
well, there's one for you there, actually. You could name out the ones that have been overdone with stock footage. Wars, for example.
Yeah.
Black and white fucking tanks.
That one scene, I think it's in every single metal video, where it's that one building that just gets blown away. I don't know how many videos I've seen that in.
That's in my next video, damn it. It's a Viking on top of that.
And fucking anime as well. How many fucking animated fucking Japanese ones?
Yeah.
Jesus Christ. Any more? Are we missing out on a few? Just definitely.
Most of them there, I think.
Are they? Oh, actually, fucking horror ones, man.
Yeah, blood and gore.
black and white horror ones there as well.
Forests. You have to throw in a forest, right?
I think the peak was that Immortal video. Everything's been downhill ever since.
In relation to songs that didn't make it on the album, how hard is it to, because again, you're a solo artist, the inner turmoil of whether a song makes it or not. Do any of you want to take that one up? Ren?
Yeah, well, I mean, like, it's like cutting one of your kids out. You know, you're not allowed, you're gone. I had one in particular that really, really, I don't know, it touched me, but it didn't make it. And I released it a couple of weeks ago. I was like, just, you know, here's a B-side.
Yes, actually, I listened to it, yeah.
And, but other than that, it's usually okay. Yeah, but he was the closest one to making it, but I couldn't, I just like, you know, had to push him on. But no, it is. It's like choosing your shield, isn't it, lads?
For me, it's kind of, you know, that whole thing of like you have to make a decision, like say by flipping a coin. But as soon as you flip the coin, you kind of know what head you kind of want to land on. It's kind of similar to that in a sense that I don't really want to excite any of them. But when I really kind of, if say I'm put there and I have to name, say, 6 to 7 tracks for the album, I kind of almost know which one I'm not going to include, kind of thing. It can be kind of difficult because you're like, there's definitely something there, but it might not be perfectly like right for that group of songs. It might be completely warranted that it's a good song, but maybe just not in that group. It may, like, you always hear of big bands that of like, oh, I wrote this song maybe 10 years ago and it just never fit. It was just never right. And then sometime you're like in the middle of writing a new album, you go, wait a minute, this fits perfectly with that kind of thing. So it's definitely it's a number of factors, but it's always that kind of, I don't really want to cut any of them, but it doesn't fit.
John?
Yeah, I don't think I've ever written too many songs that I say I have to pick the best 6 or 8 out of the 10 or 15 I've got. I used to hear, you know, Metallica and others saying that there was no spares. This is what we had, and we put that out. And I would say what tends to happen to me when I think about that is if something isn't working, I just put it aside and it doesn't get progressed. If I'm hitting a brick wall with something, I just stop with it. It's not that. So basically, it doesn't get finished. Is kind of the way it works for me anyway. And if I finish it, it means I've already put it through my quality control of my own brain. It gets out, you know. And if it gets to finishing, then I'll put it out. It's not that I have, and it's not that I have a pile of 10 other songs that I finished here and I haven't put out yet. If it's done, it goes out. And these days, as the guys were saying, now it's so easy as an independent artist to put something out, compared to trying to do it in the past where you had to have a label and you had to this, that, and the other. Now you can decide I want to put it out and you put it up on DistroKid or your Spotify or whatever it is, and it's out 10 days later. Brilliant. Yeah. I mean, that's great flexibility. So I mean, you don't have to overthink it from that point of view. If the song is good enough in your mind, you know, if you decide, oh, yeah, I think this is something that people will like, and I creatively am behind it, you can put it out. And, you know, you do hear of people who just have stockpiles of stuff and they have to sift through it. And I don't know, I'd find that really, really hard to have to go through a whole stockpile of stuff and where 90% of it is shit. I would find that really hard to do.
Your self-esteem would just plummet, wouldn't it?
Yeah, I think so.
Maybe it's an age thing, John.
Yeah, it could be that. Yeah, it could be that.
The lads have plenty of energy. I'd say, fuck it, lads. How many even tracks have V backed up there?
I don't even want to know.
There you go.
No.
Ren, you're like a fucking machine there, man.
And I'll have to get a new hard drive now.
Jesus Christ. And merchandising, again, it's an important aspect of getting your product out there. How hard have you looked at releasing T-shirts or, I don't know, branded stuff with your name on it? Ren?
Yeah, I have a bunch of stuff on the way. Hopefully by the time the album's out, like Misanthropic are sorting out, but I have T-shirts and stickers and badges, and there was something cool that they were talking about doing shot glasses. I was like,
there you go.
a shot, you know, as long as you can fit a full shot of mead, now I'm happy. So yeah, so I'm
Something
looking forward
like that
to
is
that.
unusual, actually. Again,
Yeah,
it's
I know.
the same things that we're all. It's no more than the stock footage, just the t-shirts. So if you get shot glasses out, man, that's a fucking good idea.
Oh, that sounds you won't bother, don't bother. Oh, he was talking about beer cozies as well, so you know, you probably
Very
appreciate
popular
those too.
over in America, actually.
Yeah. Oh, the merchandise stuff over there is crazy. They got all their baseball shirts and stuff, and sure, I might have one of them on soon.
You should get some drinking horns made up as well.
Yes, well, that was something I was thinking about. Right, we may actually from Shay from Marabou has a few made up for me. He said so. That'd be cool.
John, any?
Yeah, I have, as I was just showing, I have the CD coming out because originally the EPs I put out for Faroon in the last year were digital only. So I've pressed CDs now and actually had recorded and mastered 2 extra songs that nobody has heard.
Oh,
so
excellent.
there's the 2 EPs worth of music plus 2 others, and they're on a CD. And there's, as Ren mentioned, there's stickers to go with it, and I'm actually getting shirts printed this week as well. So
Jeez, that's great.
So there's a lot going on there, and with the grief stuff, we put out the CD, and there's as I mentioned, there's posters now printed, and there's shirts being printed as well. So I mean, you have to, particularly these days when we can't play gigs, you have to keep your name out there and do all those kind of stuff, and you know, people will listen to the stuff on Spotify and so on, but if they really like it, they'll go and they'll support you. They'll go to Bandcamp, they'll buy the shirt, they'll buy the CD or whatever else it is. And I think people, I'm finding it myself even these days, I'm tired of just listening to the song on Spotify or whatever, and I'm actually going and buying the CD. I don't know, again, is that an age thing?
Yes,
I don't know.
It is, John.
It might be. But because I sold all my CDs about 20 years ago, and now I'm collecting them again, and my wife is kind of going, "Oh no, what is he fucking doing?" But so yeah, I think having that stuff available, it's a missed opportunity if you don't have it. I guess really, you know, and it's a promotional tool and all the other stuff. But you know, metalers love their CDs and they love their shirts and their drinking horns.
Yeah. We are a very easy bunch to keep happy. It's fucking true, man.
It is true, yeah.
Jack, have you anything different?
Yeah, well, not even different. The closest thing I got to merch was I got like 5 hoodies made up with the Covenant artwork on, but that was more for like, it was for me and for like the people that were involved.
Oh, nice one. Nice
kind of just more of like a, you know, you see those like crew hoodies on like film productions and stuff like that. It was kind of more about that, but I really, really want to jump into the whole kind of t-shirt thing for the next album. And this is going on not even knowing what the artwork is going to look like, but like just like a small run of a few like small, mediums and large, and just see what happens. See if it actually takes off, you know?
Yeah, don't get any extra large. That's all I'd say from experience.
No reason about that.
What was I thinking?
You're just going to end up as quilts or something, you know?
Yeah, man, I tell you, I suppose I went down that route myself, and Colin Bulger, big shout out to Colin, with it, and it's a fucking great thing to have behind you. But yeah,
weird about wearing my own merch though. That was a bit strange.
That's strange, man.
It's self-righteous.
Had you that any of those problems before wearing your own merch? No.
Several times.
I just feel a bit weird. I feel like I'm kind of upping myself a bit.
I'm a professional narcissist.
Aren't we all?
And getting your stuff out, I mean, okay, you made a good point there, John. We're old school with CDs and stuff. Spotify, how do you feel about it? Are all your stuff is on Spotify, the 3 of you actually, yeah?
Yeah.
There's a lot of bands choose to ignore that. How do you feel about ignoring Spotify?
See, I might have a kind of different mindset to most, especially most kind of solo artists, in the sense that I'm doing this without not even expecting, but almost wanting anything out of it. So I kind of, again, went into this recording thing because of the joy of kind of recording and songwriting and stuff like that. And I love it. It's probably the most kind of rewarding musical thing I've ever done. But in terms of it, like getting really kind of like successful and all that kind of stuff, it's strange. I'm not interested. I'm like, and it comes down to that whole thing of like, throughout years of doing this and stuff like that, I've been a drummer, I've been a vocalist, I've been a guitar player, all that kind of stuff. And I've been in bands, and through that, I've kind of realized that the whole idea of like being in a band and touring the world and stuff like that isn't really something that I really want to do. It was obviously something that I thought of when I was younger and stuff, but now that I'm in the really old age of 27, I thought I'd drop that in. It's not really something that I'm interested in. I'm just doing it just for the sheer love of it. And that kind of results in me kind of going, if I don't make a dime from this, I really don't care. Like if people listen to it, great. That's really, really cool. But it's almost as if I've already got my satisfaction out of it by like writing it, by mixing it myself, by getting a master, by releasing it and stuff. I have this little like artistic representation of me at that specific time out there. And if I get absolutely nothing back from it, apart from the odd message going, oh, this is really cool, that's completely fine with me. So with regards to the whole Spotify thing, the fact that they pay out pretty much nothing doesn't really bother me, although I completely understand, coming from another perspective of like, you want your music to sustain you, the fact that like it's essentially giving away your music for free, if not you're paying for it to be on Spotify. That's a thing that I can imagine being a bit of a no-no for that. But for me, it's very different. It's just, as long as I've finished it and I'm happy with it and it's out there, everything else is just a complete another bonus that I'm just not expecting.
Yeah, you just more or less described the fucking podcast, man. For fucking 2 years, 120 episodes. I don't give a fuck if I don't make any money out of it. It costs me. I don't care, but it's out there. It's my fucking joy. And
it's your passion.
And that's it. Yeah. You know, I don't give a shit, man. Once people are happy, once I'm promoting the likes of you, giving me to an audience that fucking will listen to your music, that's my fucking job done. That's my passion, you know.
And shout out to you, Richie. You're doing a hell of a job.
Fantastic.
Like nothing like this was around. Like again, I'm not old, but when I was doing the whole gigging circuit and stuff with the death metal band, nothing like this was about. And I'd imagine if it was, it would have for me, kind of that Irish kind of death metal scene was really big at one point with the likes of Warpath and stuff like that. And eventually, it was like the likes of ourselves and Vile Regression, Dichotomy, and Warpath just all seemed to have just disappeared in the space of about a year. And since then, it's kind of not really obviously COVID's another thing, but like any kind of news I always got from it, it was like every single band kind of sounds really similar and they've all just hit this plateau and it's not going anywhere. You can't really get to that point. Like the only band that seems to be doing really, really well in that circuit and getting more is Dead Label. But apart from that, they seem to be an outlier. Everything else is kind of just stuck in one place. And I'd imagine if something like the Metal Cell was around, say 5, 6, 7 years ago, it definitely would have helped that.
Yeah, it's a nice thought.
Yeah, I agree.
Ren, what about Bandcamp? I mean, you're on a record label now, dude.
Yeah, Bandcamp. Yeah, like the label were chatting to me the other day. Why aren't you on Bandcamp? I was like, I don't know. And they said, we'll put you on. I was like, okay, cool.
And now you're on Bandcamp. Funny how that works out.
See, like, I don't know. I mean, like, I'm all for all this new kind of way access to music, because when I started off as well, there was nothing. You had to. I recorded my first album on a cassette tape, and I was selling it named Dorns. You know.
Jesus, yeah, Dorns as well.
Back in the day, like, so. I'm happy to be able to, send me stuff out on Spotify links and whatnot. But
yeah. It's just interesting. Say a band now, they're a newish kind of band called Brute. So they're dead against Spotify. So all you can listen to them is only on Bandcamp, and obviously you pay for your digital release and then wait for the vinyl to be released. That's coming soon. You know, in the age of Spotify and stuff like that, you can't play Brute on your phone through Bluetooth on your car unless you buy the album on Bandcamp, you know.
Yeah.
So it's I really think it's interesting that bands are choosing to do that and just putting their head above the parapet and going, fuck Spotify, this is the way we're doing it. And any thoughts on that, John?
Yeah, I think it's a bit of a risk not to do it, because so many people have their entire album collection in their pocket now. And I speak from experience myself in that up till about 5 years ago, I didn't know what Spotify was, or 4 years ago, I didn't know what it was. But with my day job, I have to travel a lot, and it's so nice for me to have whatever I want for a long haul flight or whatever it is in my pocket. So as a consumer, I absolutely love it. Absolutely love it. And the fact that, you know, some album I couldn't find, you know, on CD or whatever, I can now find on Spotify. And, you know, bands are putting stuff out maybe that have been long out of press or that kind of thing. I think that's very useful. The Bandcamp side of it, I think, is brilliant for independent musicians like ourselves, where people who really want to support the band and help them to record more in the future, they can support them directly without the interference of a middleman. And for myself, in the past, I've had labels for 2 or 3 albums in the past with, you know, good and bad experiences, and doing it this time independently, I think, was quite interesting. I didn't have a label involved by design. I spoke to a few and decided to put it out. And we did the same with The Grief, actually, in fact, as well, and decided, you know, to try it ourselves. And I think it's worked pretty well. I think if you're willing to put in the social media time, which is a pain in the ass, and you become a statistician looking at a screen, particularly this year when you can't go to gigs and look people in the eye. But you know, so from the consumer point of view, the Spotify's and Apple Music's and all of these other, you know, you put it up on these services, it now goes to like 20 different services or something, and but it costs you almost nothing, and that's pretty useful. But from an artist perspective, you know, as Jack said, it's you know, if you're in this for the money, you're in the wrong game. You're better off becoming the traveling T-shirt salesman we would all like to be as a musician, rather than you know, trying to pay off your mortgage from Spotify. But I mean, realistically, as independent musicians right now, I think if you're not on there, it's already hard enough to get heard amongst the noise of the million other bands out there. And at least you have to be in there to. Yeah, you know, to be readily accessible to somebody. Say, you know, how many times have you shared a Spotify link with somebody on your phone or on WhatsApp? It's just what people do now, you know. And that, whether it's a YouTube link or a Spotify link or whatever it is, and then you can put it on your car, say, oh yeah, you know. And if I like it, then I'll go to their Bandcamp and I'll support them. And I do that myself all the time, and I see it happening with my own music. Every other day, somebody buys an EP or buys a CD or something, and I think if you didn't have the Spotify advertising tool, how would you lose some of that, you know? Yeah.
Again, you have to be savvy with social media. It's a fucking curse. We all hate it.
Yeah.
But it's a necessary evil, again, to broaden your fan base. I mean, how else would fans know that you're fucking getting an album out there? Back in the old days, John, we'd be reading Kerrang and Metal Hammer to know that Sepultura's latest album is coming out.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
so kind of with Spotify and the streaming kind of thing, it's like the world is smaller now than it's ever been, and a big part of, like, in regards to music, and a big part of that is that whole streaming thing. The fact that you can have your whole music collection in your pocket, but the fact that you, like, to almost kind of counter that, you have to then add to that massive sea of music. Like, if you're not part of that, you're not going to be found. But if you're part of that, there's just a tiny, tiny percentage of a chance that you will be found, but you've just added to that sea of chances that you're never going to be found. It's this mental catch-22.
Yeah, absolutely agree.
Yeah, and then there's the whole thing as well of getting the release out there, and 2 weeks later, you've dropped off the cliff.
You have to be savvy about that as well. I mean, that's something that people... I mean... Look at AC/DC, right? They dropped an album in the last year, and they dropped their few videos and they did their few interviews, but all of a sudden, because they're not touring, I haven't heard from them in several weeks now. And this is like the biggest rock band in the world. And there's only so much, you know, people are, particularly, I guess, with the COVID era, everybody's sitting at home, everybody's shit sick of their screen and, you know, their social media feed, and there's only so much of it you can take. You know, and even if it's happening to those big names like that, as you say, Richie, if you're a small artist, you drop something, and if you, I think it's an interesting thing that I saw the Cult talking about it about 10 years ago. They said, we're not going to release albums anymore. Maybe it's more than 10 years ago. Maybe it's 15 years ago. They said, we're not going to release albums anymore. No. They've since released like 3 or 4 albums. Okay, but
good at the time. Go on.
They said, Ian Astbury came out at the time and said, we're not going to release albums. We're going to release capsules. I just thought it was an interesting concept at the time. It was basically, he's talking about an EP, right? We're going to put out 3 or 4 songs and we're going to drop them out in singles, like what the pop artists do. They drop a big single with David Guetta and some random singer you've never heard of, and then it's the biggest single you've ever heard, right? It just blows up. And there's no album behind it. Yeah. It's a single, right? And in my small little world, talking with the Grief initially, and then with the Faroon stuff, I figured, you know, if I've got 8-10 songs, if I dump them all out there, I've blown my load, and then I'm last week's news.
Yeah.
So the idea of at least spreading it out, putting it out, for example, as 2 EPs, each EP being led by a single, then you've got 4 releases out of your 8 songs. And then maybe you come back later on, you put them all together and you put out a compilation. There's another release, right? All you're doing is you're staying in people's psyche, their consciousness, and you're keeping your presence, I guess. You know, you're keeping your name and your brand and your name and your music in people's mind. I don't see any other way of doing it.
And you're doing a fucking great job of it, John. Faroon have been on, and The Grief, both of your bands have been on everybody's mind for the last year and a half. And it's a credit to you. There's a lot of hard work that goes on behind the scenes for you to do that, you know? Sure.
But I guess the point is, if we just put them all together as one CD and dropped it, it's gone.
You're gone, yeah.
Gone a few weeks later. It's hard, you know. Okay,
Ren, you've heard plenty of advice there, man. You're leading into that album release. What's the thought process now, man? Are you just fucking desperate to get it out?
Yeah, well, 5 days now. I'm so excited. I can't even express. This album, I don't think I've been more proud of anything in my life.
Well, from what I've heard of it so far, man, it's fucking excellent. Thanks,
brother. Yeah, no, it's just one of those things where it just clicked. It just flowed out, and you know, it was the right time. And so far it's been getting great reactions from people and stuff. And
I will say as well, you're working your ass off in the background as well, man. You've got a lot of people interested in it. You've got a lot of interviews. And your videos as well. You're doing fucking everything the right way. Again, it's great to have a label behind you as well to push you on as well, man.
It's nice to have that extra bit of incentive. You know, like I've spent the best part of the 2 decades independent. And it's nice to have somebody just giving me a little show of confidence, like, oh, you're grand. Go for it. And,
so how many songs are on it?
This one will have 10 songs on this one, yeah. And then we're talking about doing like a vinyl compilation of all the, like, re-release some of the better tracks from the last couple of albums. So hopefully that'll be out soon too. I'll be excited about that as well. I'll be just like holding it all day, walking around, hanging around my neck.
This is me in vinyl.
Check it out. This is me.
That's great to hear, man. And Jack, you have a few more songs recorded, have you? What are you aiming for next? What's your next plan?
So I'm knee deep in vocal recordings at the minute. I've about 10 songs instrumentally done. So yeah, about halfway through the vocals at the minute, kind of taking it, like doing a song every 2-3 days. Like I was saying, like being in the death metal band years and years ago, I was kind of like doing the heavy kind of growl vocals all the time, and it was nothing to me. But taking a break of 6-7 years of that kind of makes you a bit rusty. So I'm being careful with that, trying to not burn myself out. But the plan is to see. I'm currently at my parents' house. I've been here for COVID for the past year or so. But the good thing about that is it's out in the country, and I can make as much noise as I want, as opposed to when I'm living in Dublin, where I usually am. I'm living in an estate and stuff, and I tend to be quite loud when I'm doing vocals. There was a point where I was trialing some stuff when I was in Dublin, and an old lady knocked at the door asking to see if anyone was being hurt or murdered and stuff. I was like, okay, maybe I can't really do that around here. So I'm essentially, I've been home waiting to go back to work. I'm a bartender, and it looks like hopefully I'll be going back to work maybe July, August time, looking like that. So my plan is to get all the vocals done before then. As long as I have that done, then everything else can kind of just happen as it happens, kind of thing. But I'm looking at, hopefully, if all things go well, I'll hopefully be releasing it maybe the anniversary of the first album, so around October time, that kind of thing. And like I was saying, it's obviously like, because of the nature of the project, it's completely different to the first album. It's a really, really horrible, dissonant death metal, loads of like decapitated, behemoth-y, mashuggy kind of stuff going on, and me, like, again, it's all vocal and all that kind of stuff. So it's I'm really looking forward to it. It's one of those things I've been working on for a while, and it's something I'm really excited about.
Yeah, man, just with the 3V, just hit me up anytime. I'd be fucking glad to help you in any way, as you all know. So listen, lads, thanks a million for coming on. Ren, Jack and John, thank you for taking time to fill our lives with a lot more music, man. And listen, continued success, no matter what direction you go. Just once you keep it a bit metal anyway.
Yeah. Awesome.
Okay, so for everybody else, hit subscribe and crucially support your local metal scene.
Thanks, guys.
Cheers.